Cuco, the man, the myth, the legend. Finally, I get to have you on the pod. So happy we're finally doing this, man.
Thank you so much, Matt. That's quite an intro.
It is. I've never used that one before. That's how you know this episode's going to be special. But before I ask you my 200 questions that I have for you, man, last time when you and I spoke, you took the call from, I think, a cafe in San Francisco. Talk to us about what it's like living there today. Twitter's got a mix of what people think about San Fran. Some people say they love it. Other people say, no, it's not the place to live there anymore. You've been there for a long time. I'd love to hear from you. What's the scene like, especially when we consider the founder and the VC scene?
I mean, I personally love it because in general, I believe San Francisco has been historically a place where people who never fit in finally find their home. And that's been just, that's how it's been with art, with technology, with civil rights, with, all the different movements that have been part of, just not only San Francisco, but the Bay Area. And that makes it, to me, a very special place. But to the beginning of your question, I think San Francisco has recovered and is booming. There's a lot of new people coming to San Francisco now, but these people are actually coming to build, which is, I think, the difference between this new wave of people coming here to create, stuff with AI or with whatever you want, but there are more builders, more founders that are coming here versus the wave that we had a few years before the pandemic, which was mostly people coming here to work at, all the new big tech, because all those people during the pandemic pretty much very easily left. Because, when you're not building, if you're just a project manager or a marketer or sales or whatever, you can be anywhere, right? But if you're building, you actually need a community. If you're an engineer, if you're a founder, there's nothing better than to be in person working around people who are like-minded and who also are motivated by building new stuff. So I definitely see that a lot. And if people in the audience don't believe me, just go to Luma or Eventbrite or whatever and look at how many daily events and meetups are happening in San Francisco.
I was in Austin for just a couple of days, and I went to their Capital Factory, which is in Austin downtown, I believe. In just a matter of a few hours, Cuco, I ran into serial entrepreneurs. I see ads for rocket companies. And then my good friend Nick, who's an emerging manager, he's like, Mash, do you see how everything's happening in this building and you're just running into VCs and founders? And yeah, it's like San Francisco is that times 10. Everywhere you go, the connections and the sparks just keep happening. And that's when I realized I have to put San Fran on my list of places to travel in the States. So today, Cuco, you're the head of platform at Leap Global Partners, a company that I learned to really admire, especially after you and I had our last conversation. The things that you guys do differently really stood out to me. So talk to us about what it means to be the head of platform at a VC fund today. And how do you see the word platform, actually? What does that mean to you?
Well, I think that's a cool thing that it can mean pretty much anything. I have met heads of platform that focus on things completely different than what I focus on, and that's the beauty of it, right? What I have learned in my time in platform is exactly that you can use platform to make your firm different, to make it unique, and to the same way offer a more unique value to your founders and your investors. So right now we focus on helping our founders with three main things, which is fundraising, business development, and talent. But we are also very clear on how we can do that, which is by leveraging our current network. When I started, we had so many ideas on what we wanted to do. We wanted to do everything possible, but then we shortly realized that it wasn't actually possible, and that it wasn't even a good advantage to us. Because after talking to my founders, they were the ones who told me, I really don't need any more discounts on software. I really don't need any more AWS credits. All my other investors do that. But I do want something that no other firm has, and that's your own network, right? So that's how we started realizing that there's always a way to be more unique and more differentiated using your current strengths. And of course, then you can continue building up on it. But for us, because we literally just created when I joined to create the platform program within Leap. So we experimented with a couple of things, but we realized that it was better to start with what we already had because it was actually a very good advantage.
Yeah, and as I'm thinking through, Google, a lot of the previous heads and leads of platform that I spoke to, one thing that they often say, I'm just paraphrasing and summarizing, is that ultimately, Mash, you can't be doing 100 things at the same time. Find out what your core value prop is as a platform team and as a fund, and leveraging your LP network, and just drill down on that very, very well. And if there's things
Yeah.
you can't give your portfolio companies, your startup probably has other investors on their cap table who can make up for that. But don't try to be a
Mhm.
jack of all trades. Just do one or two things extremely well. So when you say, and I'm just reading through my notes here, fundraising, business development, and talent. So these are the three areas that you realize would be most impactful for your portfolio companies after having conversations with them. So one thing that I really love about your fund is that you have a very, very big network, primarily, if I recall, from Latin America, a bunch of family offices, a bunch of angels there. How do you consistently make sure then, Cuco, that folks in your network are getting the value they want? Because there's a lot of folks with a lot of interests, family offices, angels. How do you do that?
Well, it also depends on each company, right?
Mm.
Some of our companies can get more benefited from our network in the US, which is mainly more institutionals, angels, and a lot of former successful founders with one or two exits. And then in Latin America, we have more the corporate investors, right? Which is what our family offices are part of. So it depends on the companies. Some of our US companies have actually benefited a lot from our network in Latin America. And I'm going to give you an example. One of our top performers right now, which is Paystand, they actually benefited of our connections in Mexico to open a couple of pretty big offices where they have engineering teams, marketing teams, and that's one of the ways that we also use our network to help our companies, right? But then some others leverage more our network in the US with their fundraising, for example. So it's not always we use our network in LATAM for our LATAM investments or the other way for the US investments, but they both can get benefited from each other, right? And then our corporate investors in Latin America also come and do a lot of follow-on investments on our companies in both places. So it's kind of depends a lot on the case, right?
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. I want to ask you a very technical question. I'm well known for asking two specific questions, so just bear with me here, Cuco.
Nice.
That's a lot of work. There's a, as you mentioned, it's very case dependent. Depends on the startup, where they're based, what are their needs. Also on the other side, your institutional investors, your FOs, and your angels, they themselves have their own area of expertise. Maybe one angel may not always cut large checks, but they're very well connected in, let's say, fintech or
Mhm.
commerce, right? So
Yeah.
in that case, how do you and your team keep track of what everyone's needs and or expertise and specialty is? Because there's multiple parties here. So how are you keeping track of that so well?
Um, well, you need to have a good CRM, first of all, and you also need to have a good practice of being in touch with your companies, right? So in our case, we have both, right? We have someone in our team who is contacting our companies and getting updates. And I'm not talking about the quarterly reports, who, of course, when we get him, we definitely do like to get him, but we try to not be pushy on that kind of interactions with our founders because we understand what the priorities are. But it's more like touch and base to see, hey, what's new? How can we help now? Right? So you need to both have, the tools and the processes that are going to help you manage, follow up, and actually, do what you're supposed to do. But on the other side, you need to have your team doing those interactions and actually being consistent and having them scheduled and all of that, right? So
Yeah.
I think in general, it's like that combination of um, the human side and then the organized, processes, systems, tools.
Hmm. When I was speaking with Danny from Forum Ventures, she mentioned so they have, I keep forgetting the number, but I think it's like 380 portfolio companies. And from what I
Yeah.
recall, yeah, that's a lot, too much, too many. And their platform team is just 6 people. I was like, what is going on? How are you doing this? Um, so when I asked her, she said that she she and her team receive quarterly reports from their portfolio companies, and they do it through a tool as well. So in your case,
Mhm.
Kuko, you mentioned that it's about touching base regularly with your portfolio companies to keep track of their needs in real time. Can I ask, how does that work? Like, do you folks typically push for, let's say, push in a nice and respectful way, but push for, let's say, one call every 2 to 3 months, or is it more of a, hey, portfolio company, let us know if you need something? What's the process there? The human touch is important, right?
Well, it's definitely recurrent, right? So we do it every quarter, but we definitely follow the same tone that you just mentioned. This is more of a touch base situation, right? Of course, there are specific cases. For example, when we know that one of our companies is starting to fundraise, then those touch points are happening more frequently, right? Or when we know that a company needs specific help, then also, right, we're close. But in general, we do it quarterly, and we also, I mean, in my case, my investment team helps me with that. Because at the end of the day, they're the ones who bring in the companies. I mean, I'm also part of that process, right, of bringing in companies.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they're the ones following up with that.
I was speaking with Oliver from In Motion Ventures, and he said that once a week, or I think it was once every 2 weeks. I'm butchering it, but at least once every 2 to 4 weeks, he sits down with his entire team and says, "Look, I'm the platform guy, but you guys are also interacting with our founders. So we're the entire fund team. So what are you seeing with portfolio X or Y or company X or Y, right?" And it helps everyone get on the same page and align every few weeks. Sounds like
Yeah.
you also have a similar practice there. So then my question now is about the other side. You mentioned there's institutional investors and angels, people, right? So in a case like that, are you asking them what their expertise is and then, let's say, making a list of it in your CRM? And then when a founder says they need help with X, you connect them with a specific founder or investor who can be helpful? Is that how it works on the LP side?
I wish it was like that, but the truth is, most of our LPs are very busy, right? And the reason why they decide to put their money into our funds is because they don't want to have to, do all this work. So what we normally do is we invite them to participate, right? As advisors or as mentors to our companies. And then the ones that are interested, then we have a list and we know what everyone does. Some of them are through their practices or their companies. Some of them are just more as individuals, right? Like especially former founders and stuff like that. And that's how we have been doing it so far. Ideally, right? Ideally, one of our plans is to create a more official advisory network for our founders. But right now, it's been a little more.
That's very interesting. I was literally right before this call, I was speaking to Emily from Brobly Ventures. And I think when we did our podcast episode a few months ago, she mentioned that, building that team of mentors and or advisors to their portfolio companies is something that they're looking into as well. And same with Danny from Forum Ventures. She mentioned that they're building an initiative called the 0 to 1 initiative, where they're bringing in those serial entrepreneurs and serial operators to talk to their portfolio companies because they've been there, done that, right? And I can see the value prop there, right? Because it really helps your portfolio companies talk to people who've been down that same road. And also it helps your team stay connected with your portfolio companies so you can keep a real-time tracker on what their needs are, where they're falling short, etc. So I see the value prop there, man. That's really cool. That's actually very cool. How big is your platform team though? Because like, a lot's going on, man. Like, are you doing this all by yourself?
We are a two people platform team, which I mean, right now it's still doable because, we're a young firm. We're about to close our second fund. So it's still doable. We have 28 active companies, not so crazy, but definitely part of what we're going to do the moment that we close the second fund will be to add people to our team for sure, because we expect to have a lot of companies through our pipeline very soon, and we know what that comes with, right? The kind of work that we're going to have to be doing, and then the work that will happen after we make those investments. So for sure.
I always get so impressed when I hear a 1 or 2 person team getting so much done. Um, I think coordinating between when it comes to a business as personal as VC, where you're handling other people's money and you're really helping people build companies, the human touch and the human connection is so critical. So whenever I hear small teams handling such large amounts of people and doing it well, it's always very impressive to hear people. So that's awesome.
Sometimes I think that there are things that a small team can do better. In our case, that's the reason why we try to be more focused. We prefer to do a few things and do them very well, not only because we're a small team, but because we believe, like I said at the beginning, that it's better to be recognized for something, and then founders and companies can, look for us if they try to partner with someone who does what we do, and that makes everything easier.
Great for both parties. I want to ask about how you're leveraging artificial intelligence. It seems like when we spoke last time, it seems like you've really leveraged artificial intelligence to automate some of your fund operations, which I would love to dig into. So talk to us about how you've leveraged AI internally within the fund, and what exact parts of your operation has it really been effective in reducing manual labor?
I think that a lot of people right now are playing with AI, which is the most, expected thing. It's the most logical thing. I think for us, it came, the release of ChatGPT's API and all of this. For us, it came at the right moment because we were actually going through an overhaul of our investment process. We were pretty much redefining the whole thing. And I believe that that's where the real difference is made. You can test and identify a lot of points where AI can make a difference, but I think if you actually want to see bigger impact, part of using technology like AI to automate and to streamline and all that needs to come hand in hand with the process itself. So for us, we identified number one, how many interactions there were in our process with the founders, how many times we had to meet with them before we gave them a yes or a no. And we realized that it was a very long process, that there was way too many interactions with the founder, which is a waste of their time. And to be honest, it's also a waste of our time. So why waste everyone's time? We also identified that the way that we were bringing companies to our pipeline was very diverse. Sometimes it was companies that were recommended. Sometimes people would just reach out directly. Sometimes we would see companies in a demo day. Sometimes we met a founder in a tech week or another event, right? So we identified a lot of opportunities. The number one was, how do we put all of these different companies that come in different ways through just one way that allows us to analyze every single company the same way? So we started, using technology, and pretty much we started using ChatGPT a little bit to streamline that part first. How do we make sure that we can compare every single company the same way? How can we analyze exactly the same points about every single company and not have, well, you cannot really avoid bias, right? Because and it's also kind of a good thing, because then where's bias also comes with the expertise of your team and the expertise of the people that are going to make the decisions. Something that's very clear to us is AI has helped us with the quantitative part of the initial analysis. So today, something that would normally takes us, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks sometimes, which was to receive, the first contact from the founder, look at the deck, all of that, try to schedule a call and internally meet and do the analysis and all of that. Now we just do it automatically with one type form that does a bunch of stuff in the background, including using, OpenAI's API to pretty much grab all the information from the form, their deck, and everything, and only extract the information that's important to us in order to see if this company is within our investment thesis, number one, because we were losing a lot of time. We were wasting time on meeting with companies that we didn't even know if they were within our thesis, or if they were even in the right stage, or, So we have saved a lot of time by using it for that. And now our next step is, once we actually have that whole initial part automated, how do we use AI to get new insights based on the current information that we have from that company? And that's, for me, the trickiest part, because, as you know, LLMs in general right now, if you ask them to create new stuff, they create very good new stuff, right? Very, very good. But it doesn't mean it's accurate. It doesn't mean it's real. So we are definitely experimenting a lot on how to use the current data that we have from these companies. How do we enrich that data? Because now we're looking at how we plug into the information that we have from PitchBook, from Crunchbase, from just the web, and how all that data can actually help us make better decisions. But like I said, it's a very tricky part of the process right now, because we have been trying to experiment and at the same time compare to make sure that all those suggestions, all those results, or all those insights are accurate. But I do believe that, our goal is that we can just create an agent that's pretty much an AI, VC analyst that can help us with all the qualitative analysis. Because at the end of the day, analyzing numbers should be done the same way, and it shouldn't be our advantage as investors, right? It's more the experience and the understanding of the market, and the understanding of the team, and the things that actually require people to make these decisions.
I think that's a fantastic overview. I took so many notes. If you saw my file, you'd see it's full of my notes here. But so it sounds like, let me just show it to you.
Nice.
So it sounds like there's essentially what AI has helped you accomplish so far is really reduce the amount of time it takes to understand if a startup's a good fit in terms of thesis, stage, metrics, etc. Are there questions in the future that you would want the AI to be able to answer? So, for example, I love the qualitative piece where you're saying you're taking data from PageBook and Crunchbase and trying to understand, add context to the data received from the startup, and figure out if this is a startup we want to spend more time with. Are there other specific questions that you are aiming to have AI answer for you in the near future, quantity or quality-wise?
Well, I can think of a lot of stuff. Like one of the things, for example, that comes to mind right now, I didn't think about this before, but I think that one of the ways that we could use AI is something that AI is, right now specifically machine learning is great at, is identifying patterns, right? And I would say I would love to see how AI can help us analyze opportunities or find opportunities within our portfolio companies, because that's something that we do a lot. We actually, one of the exits of one of our companies from Fund One was another one of our companies acquiring it, right? And we always try to foster that collaboration between our companies, because That's why we also focus on very specific verticals, right? So that we have a lot of we have a lot of B2B fintechs. We have a lot of B2B SaaS. So we try to connect those companies and look for opportunities. So I would definitely love to use AI to keep track of all the data that we continuously could get from all of our companies, and then try and find connections between them, opportunities. That's just one thing, but of course, that's yeah.
I was reading into the logistics industry, and I had to read, I think, 10 pages. It was too much data. But when I was doing that, the use cases that they have, I know you guys don't invest in logistics, but the use cases that they had in the logistics space where AI could be used from anywhere from taking in data from random PDFs and Excel files, so unstructured data, finding errors in them, but then also helping people in the entire chain of manual labor not just cut down time, but also find trends and patterns, and then leverage those as well in order to move things quicker, faster, and more profitably. And I think you're right. The number one thing that I would personally love to learn from AI is what I don't know. There's always things that we don't know are possible. And if AI could ingest all of my data to tell me trends that I'm not seeing, opportunities and possibilities between the portfolio companies themselves, you said, I think you have 28 portfolio companies, that'll save a lot of creative work for me. And ultimately, I can then, as a human being, interrupt that process and then see which of this data makes more sense and then go from there. One thing that you mentioned in the beginning of the pod, Cuco, was there's 3 areas that you help your portfolio companies with: fundraising, business development, and talent. So when it comes to business development, and I've started sourcing questions for the pod from folks that other heads of platform, and I got in touch with Leandra, who's the head of platform at Atento Capital, and she had a question for you specifically. So she asked, let's do this. So she asked, what are your biggest strategies for helping your portfolio companies connect with the right customers and partners?
The best way that I can add value to that question is by explaining what we used to do and how we're approaching it now. So what we used to do is our founders would come to us and then they would tell us, hey, I know that this company is one of your investors. We would love to sell them, right? And then we would ask, hey, who can we connect our founder with in your company so you could be their client, right? And normally corporations tend to look at startups like, oh yeah, this is like tech, innovation, or whatever. So let's just direct them to our innovation person, right? Whatever that means. In some companies, it's like there's like a full innovation team. For some others, there's just like one person, right?
Yeah.
But of course, this person's role, it's not to add vendors, for example, to the corporation. It's not to necessarily hire solutions for something very specific. So for example, if my portfolio company is a software to automate HR and payroll, then what they need is to talk to someone in HR or in finance, maybe, right? Because it's payroll. So what we realized is that those people tried to help, but they couldn't necessarily move the needle. And so now what we are doing is to try to be more direct and do the work first to find that person who's actually the decision maker. It definitely is a little harder because for us before it was easy to just, oh yeah, let me introduce you to my my point contact. But if that person is not going to move the needle, then it doesn't make sense, right? So now, unfortunately, yes, there's more work to be done, but I think it's been a little more effective. At the end of the day, you need to work internally the same way that you would look when you're looking for clients. You need to find the right person who's the decision maker. You need to find who actually will find this solution helpful, right? Because maybe whatever other contact within the company doesn't really think that they need to improve anything in HR. Maybe for them it's like, oh no, we're great. But maybe you talk to the head of HR and that person tells you, oh my God, I really need that. So that's the approach that we're taking right now. And to be honest, what we have been trying to do, and this is one of my biggest challenges right now, to be honest, is how do we turn that into something more standard, right? So it's not us trying to always just find who is that random person or who is that specific person who's going to help us, and how to make it a little more repeatable, a little more systematized.
And the third bucket of capabilities that you offer as the platform team, Google, is talent, right? Talk to me about how you understand the kind of talent that your portfolio companies need at a specific time. And then how do you source this? Do you go out on their behalf? Do you work with talent managers, et cetera, to find those people? Like, what's that talent hiring process like for you guys?
Well, we are very specific on how we help in terms of talent. So number one, we do not have any talent specialists in our team. So we do not do the sourcing ourselves. If there is someone within our network that we can introduce, we may do that. But where we are stronger in terms of talent is a lot of our companies in the US are always looking for opportunities to hire people and literally build full teams in Latin America, and that's where we're very strong in, because we have partner companies that also belong to our corporate investors, or companies that we have just partnered with, both talent companies and even just like local office space or just like nearshoring spaces. And that's where we're very strong in. We have helped some of our companies, build offices and teams in places that other people in the US wouldn't imagine that there is very good talent, and that's because we have good connections in all these different cities, like Hermosillo, Sonora, which is also a place that's very, very close to Arizona, for example, or in Guadalajara, Mexico City. So yeah, that's where we can help the most in terms of talent. And going back to being very specific, right? That's where we can help. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to leveraging your network, right? And how founders were telling you, look, like I don't need more Amazon credits. I need your network's unique. Like help plug me into it so I can get that specific niche value out of global partners.
Yeah,
right?
Just to be transparent, we also do help them get Amazon credits when they need it. But that is not what we're trying to promote as what we do in platform, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. I might reach out to if I need some Amazon credits. So you've been in platform for a while now. Actually, how many years have you been in platform for?
Not so much. A couple of years.
Couple of years. Yeah. Damn, and all this expertise already. Okay, very nice.
I mean, the more you experiment and try to just do new stuff, then you hit your head, and then you keep going and learn a bunch of stuff. I think that something that helps really, really more than just officially being in platform is to have experience as a former operator, founder, and having worked with VCs before and with a bunch of founders before, and really understanding a lot of their needs. I think that's what actually has helped me do my job, better, and not so much the time in platform, because I mean, platform has been around, I don't know, for like 7-8 years. And I say this based on the fact that I believe the VC platform community has been around for also like 7 or 8 years. So maybe add a little more to that, but like officially as platform, it's probably around that. So probably not even 10 years, right? So I think that there's very, very few people that have become experts in platform because of the time that they've been on the role. I think it's more about the kind of stuff they've been experimented with and trying to build within their firms, and we are very tied within all of us, right? So it's a community that's very open to help and to learn and to share our own experiences. So I think that's what make someone in platform become an expert on what they do.
I would totally vouch for that, Kuko, because when I first started doing this podcast series, I was very nervous. I was like, damn, like here I am, a guy who knows nothing about platform, trying to do a podcast. Like, who's gonna talk to me? Because it's such a like a weird thing. But then when I reached out, there were a bunch of people. I remember Abby was my first guest on episode 1, and she was just so open. She's like, Matt, yeah, let's do the episode. Don't worry about your questions. Like, we'll figure it out. And the more I talk to folks in platform, the more I realize, Kuko, genuinely, you guys are very open to have a conversation. You love meeting new people. You love learning. And you love basically just, it's so welcoming. Joshua, who's, I believe, the executive director of VC Platform, he's actually based in Toronto. And I reached out to him before I started the podcast. I was like, hey, man, like, I want to do something in this space. I have no idea what I'm doing. He's like, Ash, I feel like you could do da-da-da-da-da. And there was just a 15-minute conversation. I was like, wow, like this man is very helpful, and he doesn't even know me.
Josh is great.
Amazing. I'm gonna meet him with one of my other podcast guests hopefully in the next few months. Let's make it happen. Yeah, he's based in Toronto. Also, you were in the VC Platform event in Miami just a few weeks ago, right? How was that? And I think you led a panel or something similar. What did you guys talk about, and how did that event turn out?
It was, so first of all, it was great. The event was great. I unfortunately couldn't make it to the summit last year. So this was really my first summit. And it was amazing. I've been knowing that, the VC platform community is super well organized, but that event was really great. There was a lot of more personalized content, a lot of very interactive sessions, and a lot of very diverse platform members. So it was really good. And yes, I led a roundtable focused on some of the things that we've been talking about, which is how to make sure that your platform strategy leverages what makes your company or your firm unique, how to use your strengths, and how to use what you currently have and leverage that, right? So that's pretty much what we did. We talked about how everyone was doing in their own platform teams. We had platform teams from firms that are pretty big, like like Microsoft's corporate venture capital, to other firms that are just like a small team like Leap. So it was very interesting to see how everyone tried to define their own strategy using what they had, right? Like some of us were like, I was like, I have my network and I have my team and that's all I have. And then some others were like, oh yeah, no, we're a team of like 10 people and we also have like a budget of boom, 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 and we have this and that. And I was like, must be nice. But still, they were struggling to find how they could actually differentiate, their platform offering, right? Because at the end of the day, when you're a big firm, you're expected to do everything, right? So it also comes with that price, I would say. But yeah, in general, it was really, really cool because I was technically just leading the session, but it was not just like me telling everyone, how to do it. It was more like me guiding this conversation and everyone sharing their expertise and all of us learning from each other. And I think that's what, again, makes, platform very strong, which is peers learning from other peers.
Dude, like you're. So I was actually talking to Oliver from Motion Ventures, who's the head of platform there, and he was like, "Mash, come down to Miami. Like, let's meet. All literally, like, this is your crowd. Come through." I couldn't go because of a personal reason, and I was like, "Damn!" And then I keep seeing the pictures. Like, Bain Capital Ventures is posting photos. You're posting photos. Joshua's posting photos. My past podcast guests are posting photos. I'm like, really? Like, if I went there, I could have met all my guests in one day, and I said I didn't go. Anyways, next year, I'm seeing you in Miami or wherever the hell they have this.
Whatever they host it.
It'll be fun.
We'll be there.
I should talk to Joshua and we should do like a panel of all the previous guests in the same room. It'll be so freaking cool. I think that'd be nice.
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
You should have a live episode.
I could. Oh man. Okay. I'm a sucker for these things. I love conversations. I love doing conversations, not so I could talk, but just rather to let people share and then making sure everyone feels connected and no one feels left out. And I think that makes a good personality for a moderator. So I would love to maybe have that role. I'll bring it up with Joshua and I'll say, you know what, Cuco mentioned we could do a live episode. And then you might get an email. So you got to vouch for me, man. It's like, yeah, I told Mash.
I will.
Yeah.
If I do,
Awesome.
I will for sure.
Beautiful. So I do have a few questions before I let you go. One thing I wanted to ask you, Cuco, is what's the best advice that you've gotten when it comes to VC platform?
So the best advice that I had was from another friend who's also in platform. And I met this guy randomly at an event. And I was telling him how I was struggling with, I don't know how to help. I have companies that have like all these needs, and I have these other companies who don't need me at all, and like whatever. So I was still kind of, trying to find balance between that. And he just told me, look, define how you can actually help him. Don't try to do something that you're not actually great at. And let them know if you actually cannot help them with something, it's better that they know that you cannot help than you trying to, struggle to see how you make that happen if you're not good at it. So little by little, and this is also because being a former founder, I definitely felt their pains, right? Like they would ask me like, can you make intros with this and this and that? And I would be like, okay, I'll try, but no one in our team or our network knows anyone there. So I would try to just, shoot a Hail Mary or something, and sometimes it would work, sometimes it won't. So in general, I think that's the best advice that I got, mainly because of the moment where I was very early building or trying to build platform for a team. And that also was the beginning of my philosophy and platform now, which is be very specific on what do you do and how you can do it for your founders, right? So it was thanks to that advice that I think I started thinking about platform in that way. Something that I really never expected and I really like about some platform teams is they actually take focus to the extreme. There are firms that understand that their real value is, for example, what we're talking about, talent, right? But they actually have a full talent team that is sourcing and hiring and managing HR stuff, the same way that in some other firms, platform only focuses on business development. In some other firms, it only focuses on marketing and content, right? So it's very interesting to see all these different firms doing platform that way. And also, I think that in the future, probably the same way that you would like to have, I don't know, an investor that is very experienced in my industry, then another investor that's very experienced in my business model, let's say in SaaS, and then another investor that has tons of enterprise connections or whatever. I think that platform teams, little by little, will understand that founders will soon want to have the same from their firms, right? I would love to work with a firm that cannot just inject capital, but can also help me with finding the right talent or doing business development with this type of companies that are, my potential clients, and little by little. So I think that at the end of the day, firms will become more value specific.
Google, this was such an enlightening episode. Our last conversation that we had when you were at the cafe was fun and insightful, and this was even more. So I really, really enjoyed this. However, I cannot let you go until I ask you my rapid round question. Yeah, are you ready?
Okay.
Yeah,
I think
let's
so.
do this. Alrighty. 1, 2, 3. Pizza topping. You have to think. Come on, man. It's pizza topping. You don't like pizza?
Too many amazing ones. Yeah, I have too many like favorites of like. No, pepperoni for sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah, pepperoni makes a list. Very nice.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay, I spoke with Emily from Rob Ventures, and she said, "Oh, was it pesto with barbecue sauce?" I was like, "Dude, just Stop. Like that's right. It's
Hey,
so
I've
specific.
had I've had pesto and it's amazing on pizza. But, I mean, I think it's just because I literally had this amazing pizza last night, Um, and it has like pepperoni, bacon, sausage. Yeah,
Oh, perfect. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
it's
really good.
amazing.
That's like super protein. If you could pick us one superpower in your life, what would it be?
Reading minds.
Dude, same. Yeah. It would make my life so much easier. I don't have to read anyone's facial expressions. I can just tell, like, look, I know what you want.
That's yeah.
Love
I
it.
think that would avoid so many problems. It would help me connect better with people. It would definitely be a huge privacy issue, but yeah, yeah.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's you know, good and bad. If your life was a movie, what genre would it be?
Sci-fi for sure. Yes,
Very cool. What's your favorite sci-fi movie?
Interstellar.
Oh my God! Finally, I found someone. Okay, do you think there should be an Interstellar 2, like the next continuation, same actors,
Nah,
same actors?
it's too good.
No,
It's too good. Leave it there. It's too good. Yeah, no, I don't want.
no. I want
I
to
don't want
see
the
him.
no. Dude, I mean,
No,
yeah, but I don't want the I don't want to open the door for like a bad, you know,
that's
continuation
true.
could be. So I don't
No,
know. I
I
think it's
want him to
good.
rescue
I
her,
think
man.
it's
I
good.
want him to like. No, but it was it's the only movie I've watched like 4 times. I don't watch movies 2 times. It's the only
Yeah,
one I've watched for. It's just such a masterpiece. Like the music, the feeling.
yeah.
Your favorite go-to comfort food, and you can't say pizza.
You know what? Ice cream is comfort food for me, actually.
There we go. What's your favorite ice cream?
Yeah,
Chocolate.
caramel cone.
Wow, that's specific, man. That's way too specific. Specific
Yeah,
caramel color.
yeah. Caramel cone is my Achilles heel, actually. Yeah, yeah,
Never heard anyone say that. Love it.
yeah.
Last question for you is your favorite way to spend a lazy Sunday afternoon?
Probably a gummy and watching a movie. Yeah,
Class. Simple. I like
yeah,
it. I like it. It's nice.
yeah.
Google, this was amazing. Thank you so much for coming on, and this was an absolute pleasure.
Of course. Thank you so much, Mike. It was my pleasure for sure.